What's up, everybody? My name is Amy, and this is the Ruby Pearl Clamper True Crime Podcast.
Put your weight and you're sitting on top of the world.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ruby Pearl Clamper True Crime Podcast. My name is Amy. Welcome to my show. Hope everyone has had a wonderful day. It is colder than a well digger's butt in the backwoods of Arkansas here, and I am just trying to stay warm and not looking forward to having to get out tomorrow and run errands in the cold. I am just not a person that can handle the cold anymore. I have osteoporosis in my back. I have old injuries. I have fibromyalgia and such. And so the cold weather is not my friend. If you missed my live earlier, please go and check it out. There are some new suspects in the case of Michael Monkey Vaughn, who was kidnapped from his home in Fruitland, Idaho. Be sure and check that out. And also, if you love all things true crime, please hit the subscribe button down below and give me a thumbs up. Help me get into this little thing they call the algorithm and grow my little channel here, because you're going to get all crime here and no crama. And sometimes I've wondered if that is one of the things that has not helped my channel grow, is because I do not have crama here on my channel. But, you know, if someone upsets me, yeah, sometimes I say my piece. But other than that, it's all crime and no crama here at the Ruby Pearl Clamper True Crime Podcast. Oh, so I hope everyone is having a wonderful week. It's been a very long and stressful week, you know, here in the true crime community, with all of these cases and new things breaking in different cases. It's just, you know, crime never stops. And so there is never a dull moment or a restful moment here in the true crime community. This week, the remains that were found in the landfill in Chatham County, Georgia, have been identified to be those of little Quentin Simon. His mother, Leilani, was arrested and is being held in the Chatham County Jail on several charges. And there are new suspects in the case of the disappearance of Michael Monkey Vaughn out in Fruitland, Idaho. Two people that lived with Stacy and Sarah Wandra have been identified by the police, and the search is on for those two guys. Their names are Brandon Brandon Shirtliff, and the other guy's name is Adrian. Please do not ask me to pronounce his name because I can't. But he knows who he is, and the police are looking for you guys, and they want y'all to turn yourselves in, and you have you have some charges awaiting you. So let's talk more about the Idaho 4 slayings. Kaylee Gonclaves, her best friend Madison Mogen, and their roommate Xana Kernodle and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin were found brutally stabbed to death in their off-campus college house at the University of Idaho. The police have stated that they believe that this is a targeted attack, that one or more people inside the house were likely the target of this attack. However, they are backing down a little bit from that. Now, does that change whether or not this was a targeted attack or whether this was a random attack? Not really. It's just that some things have happened in the investigation that, the police right now, they just do not know who did this. And they don't know why they did this. So, you have to sort of keep all, windows open and avenues open when you're looking for the perpetrator in a horrific crime like this. Some people believe that this was possibly the work of a serial killer. I personally don't share that same sentiment. I do believe that one or more people in that house was a target. But the problem is that web sleuthers are looking into every avenue of these 4 kids' lives. Their parents, their grandparents, their brothers, their sisters, their friends, their cousins, and they are contacting these people to get any kind of information out of them that they can regarding these 4 young people's lives. They are also, as I said, we don't know who the perpetrator is. We don't know who the killer is. So we don't know if it's someone that lives there close to them and their little off-campus house, or if this person lives 10, 15, 20, 30 miles away. So people are looking into all of the neighbors, which is, of course, the same thing that the police are doing. But the police don't put their information out and who they're looking into. They don't release all that kind of stuff. They don't post all that kind of stuff on their social media pages and tweet and Twitter and stuff like that. You know, and I'm a web sleuther myself. And yes, I have looked into people's lives. Yes, I have done deep dives on people. But anything I have ever found on someone, I keep it to myself. Because what if I'm wrong? What if I got the wrong person? Um, you know, just because someone seems suspicious to me or might have something in their background that is suspect, I'm not just going to post a YouTube video or post it all over my social media. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to write those things down in my notes, and I'm going to keep that information to myself. So if I'm stalking you or looking into you as a possible suspect in a case or a person of interest or whatever, I'm not going to post you all over social media. Unfortunately, other people do. And you've got a whole community of people who are on Reddit. Yes, I've been on Reddit. Yes, I have a profile on Reddit. But I'm not a Reddit sleuther. I very seldomly am on Reddit unless it's just, you know, maybe to read what other people are saying or kind of capturing what other people are thinking or whatever. I'm not a big Reddit user. But the problem is that when you start digging into people's backgrounds and looking into their arrest records, or maybe they're on the SO's list or whatever, it doesn't make somebody guilty. But we are in an age where we have so much. We have the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. We have public records. We have People Search and Truth Finder and arrest records and warrants and all that kind of stuff is posted on is public domain. And while I appreciate that type of transparency, if you put it out there that, okay, let's pretend that I am a neighbor of these 4 young people that were killed so brutally, and you put it out there, hey, this girl Amy looks kind of suspicious, and she's been arrested for this or that 20 years ago, and da 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 da, she seems a little suspicious to me. And then you put my information out there for everyone to come to my social media pages, to come to my house, or contact my family members, all because I blinked the wrong way, or I have a drug arrest in my past from 15 years ago or something, and maybe crime could be related to drugs or something. You can destroy a person's life like that, because we live in a day and age of mob mentality. And when you've been in true crime as long as I have, my first televised case that I followed was the O.J. Simpson trial. And the whole world was watching the trial of the century. That courtroom was packed. The outside of that courtroom, I can't even begin to imagine how many thousands of people were outside that courtroom. Same goes for Scott Peterson, Jodi Arias, Casey Anthony. These high-profile cases where thousands and thousands of people are gathered waiting to hear the outcome of a trial. And one thing I learned during the Jodi Arias case is just how far people will go from their own chair at home behind their keyboard to destroy someone. In that particular case, they tried to destroy the lives of anybody that testified on the defense side. They tried to destroy her attorney's lives, her family's lives. I really got to see for the first time just how horrible people can be. And they do it all from the privacy of their own home, hidden behind a keyboard. And that is scary. People go around making death threats against people. And in this day and age, you have to take things like that serious, because you don't know when somebody's just going to bust up in a place and just start shooting, or show up outside someone's house and be like, "You're guilty. I know you're guilty," or "I really fully believe that you're guilty," and take that person out. We're supposed to live by the New Testament of the Bible. And I get it. Some people out here aren't religious. I don't care if you are or you aren't. But whether you're religious or not, you know that it's against the law to kill people or hurt people or blow their house up or, shoot their dog or catch, whatever, these kinds of things. But it doesn't stop somebody from doing it. And there has been a young man named Jeremy Reagan whose life has just literally been turned upside down because he did an interview. And he was really one of the only people so far living near where these slayings happened that has done an interview with mainstream media other than the victims' families. So naturally, his interview went viral. And every news media outlet in the world has contacted him, as well as other people who have been an indirect part of this investigation. Joe Vito, the guy at the food truck, the big burly guy that I've talked about, Lord, he's been contacted by Dr. Phil and all kinds of people, and he's like, man, y'all, I just saw these two girls drunk at the food truck. That's all I know. And you got Dr. Phil contacting you to come on his show for an interview. Jeremy Reagan's got CNN and all these people emailing him. And they just happen to have some sort of small contact or indirect contact with these victims, and they are being just hounded by media and web sleuthers. And I get it. Believe me, I get it. We all want to know who did this. We all want the killer caught. We all want to know why the killer committed these crimes. But we've just got to be somewhat patient and let the police do their job. And we as web sleuthers, if we find somebody, if we do a dive into a neighbor or an associate or a co-worker or whatever, to these 4 victims, then don't blast it all over social media. Contact the police and give them this information and let them investigate it, especially in a crime like this. This crime has traumatized an entire college university. This crime has traumatized an entire city. This crime has traumatized 4 families of mothers and dads and brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and cousins. And this whole community, this whole city, and all these families are going through sheer trauma at the brutality of this crime. I mean, this was brutal and this was horrific. And people are severely traumatized. You've got a university of students who are scared to death. Some of them are scared to death to even return to school. Some of them are scared being on campus, but yet, they've got to finish school. They've got to finish the semester. They've got, in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, you've got all this end of the year work that's due. You've got all these tests you've got to take and blah, 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 blah to pass this semester. And this crime has just turned this entire university full of students upside down. And these people are traumatized and they're scared because we don't know who did this. We don't know why they did it. Were they targeted? Were they not targeted? Is there a serial killer on the loose? Could this happen again? What's next? Could I be a target? You've got a university full of students with those thoughts in their head. And families who are grieving. Friends that are grieving the loss of their friends who have had to return to school to finish out this semester in the midst of this investigation. And in a crime like this with such horrific circumstances, this is just not the time and place for nonsense. And it's not a time and place for YouTubers or Redditors or whatever to be, trying to get some kind of a acknowledgement or clicks and views and whatnot. Over stuff. As I was saying in my last live, I grew up in a completely different era, and I respect people. I respect people's privacy. I respect people's time of grieving. There's just certain moral boundaries that I will not cross. Even though, I have 3 years of journalism along with my 3 years of criminal justice. I wanted to combine those two things together. And I love to interview people. I've been interviewed many times. But I've never crossed the line with people in any way, shape, fashion, or form. I'm going to ask you for an interview. I'm going to ask you if I can film you or record you or whatever. But a lot of people want to be the next Perez Hilton, want to be the next TMZ, and just like the paparazzi, who go digging through celebrities' trash and stuff, trying to come up with the dirt on folks. That's not me. And if that's what you're looking for, then maybe I'm not, the right channel. But and I don't begrudge people that do that. But because I know that, especially in journalism and in investigative journalism, that you want to be that first person that breaks a story, or you want to be that person that maybe solves the case, or whatever. I get that. I understand that. But that's just not for me. I just can't and won't cross certain lines. We Last night there was a beautiful uh vigil held at the university for Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan. And it was hard for me to watch because it took me back to my 17-year-old cousin when she was killed in a car wreck. And I had to find it all out. I woke up one morning to find it all plastered all over Facebook before any of my family had had an opportunity to call me. I woke up that morning and it was already plastered all over Facebook, including a photo of the what was left of the vehicle that she was killed in. And there were 5 kids total in that vehicle that night. And my cousin Drew was the only one who died. The other 4 did sustain injuries, but they lived. And everyone in the car was from different high schools. So and even though we all lived in the same county, it brought our entire county and our entire community together. Rival high schools and high schools that, normally didn't even see each other, like, as far as, on the football field and in sports and things like that. But when you live in a county like that, and in a small, in a community with 5 or 6 different high schools, everybody becomes friends with people from different schools and whatnot, of course. And this it affected our entire community, what happened to my little cousin Drew and the other 4 people who were in that car wreck. And it's, that vigil just really took me back to Drew's vigil that was held in the indoor football field. And remembering just that pain and anguish in our family and in my cousin and her ex-husband, just the pain and these young kids losing their friend, and me losing my cousin who I spent Christmases and Thanksgiving with. And she was only 17 years old. She had a beautiful life ahead of her. And So this just all sort of takes me back to that. Oh, thank you. Hello, magazine. Magazine or magazine? I don't want to piss anybody off politically, so is it MAGA or MAGA? Creepy modern world is the internet is it. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And there's pros and cons to everything. There's so many pros and cons to everything, and where I mean, I myself as a web sleuther, that would tickle me to death. I would be so happy to have been able to help the police solve a case or give them information that led to an arrest or something like that. That's why I do this. That's why I am so passionate about true crime. I had there's things with my health and all that kept me from being able to live out my dream as far as being like a crime scene investigator or a detective and things like that. I had health issues that helped me that kept me from being able to fulfill those things. So being an advocate, and I've been an advocate since the late 80s. I've been in true crime since the late 80s. So I've been doing this a long time. I was true crime when true crime wasn't cool. And, it is the public support and help that does bring awareness to cases. It can help solve cases. It can and does do a lot of good, but it can do harm to people. As in, my God, I am an independent, so no one should get pissed that silent majority voted Trump. Okay. Well, I just wanted to be sure, I'll be the next thing I know, you're screaming at me, you fucking bitch. Yeah, I'll never listen to your channel again. Bye. People people will lose it over some politics now. I want to help people in the worst case scenarios. And absolutely, I am the same way. I mean, if I can leave this world knowing that I helped either better someone's life, make a difference in someone's life, or helped solve a crime, or brought a victim justice, or got a wrongfully convicted person out of prison or something like that, then I've done what I wanted to do. That's just me. I and the way I am. But I just hate seeing, again, I voted Trump. I believe in evidence, and I encourage people who question everything. Oh, you and me can definitely be friends then, because I definitely question everything too. Well, I don't want to get way off on a side story about how I question a lot of things, but because that could get into an all night rant about things that have absolutely nothing to do with the Idaho 4. But this is just scary. This is so scary. My youngest daughter met her now husband. They met in college. they were both volunteering in a haunted house, and they met in the clown room, and they've been together ever since. And I just could not imagine having had this happen at their college. I I wouldn't let I know I would not let my daughter go back until the killer was caught, regardless of whether it was targeted or random. I would not let her go back. But I understand, that these kids have got to do what they got to do, but they just do not need any more trauma or terrorizing in their lives. Because I can just, only imagine what so many of them are dealing with, and the thoughts and things in their head. Even the little nerdy girl who was never accepted into a sorority, or that, didn't even know these girls or whatever, she's probably terrified. Um, I mean, I don't know. I guess I think way more about other people than I do myself. And I think way more about other people's feelings than I do, my own feelings. But like I said, my favorite Bible verse is, do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. Well, I have met my true love a similar way. Yes, the one light in this murder case is that couple died together in those fault. Oh, I know. Yeah, that's my next thing is that I was going to go over, is that, we have since come to learn from Kaylee Conclave's father that Madison and Kaylee were actually in the same bed together when they were killed. That is a uh, key piece of information that we had not known before. We always assumed, of course, that Xana and Ethan were in the same bed because they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and Ethan did not live in the home. I have read comments that have been made, that Ethan was either found in the hallway or found in the living room area and not in the bed. And we also know from an interview that Xana's father did that Xana is the victim, at least one of the victims that had defensive wounds on them. So, little small things are being learned, gradually. But as far as, the police revealing anything about the crime scene, they have been very, very tight-lipped about that. Situation can be scary. You wake up with strangers. Oh, I know. And that was one of the things that I mentioned in part one of talking about the Idaho 4, is that we don't know the two girls that lived in the basement bedrooms. We don't know anything about where they had been that night, what they had been doing. Had they had company over? We're not sure where Ethan and Xana were between 9 and 1:45 when they were said to have arrived home. The police have since corrected that statement regarding Xana and Ethan going to this frat party, is that they were seen at the party between 8 and 9 o'clock. But it doesn't mean that they were actually only there from 8 to 9 o'clock. They could have been there later than that. But as far as, I guess, witnesses they've spoken to, or maybe friends or whatever, that they only, the particular people that they spoke to said they only saw them there between 8 and 9 o'clock. So what time they actually left the party, where they went after they left the party, did they go somewhere else? Did they leave at 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10, whatever? Yes. That is the one thing that I am very adamant about. That this was not pre-planned. That I believe that whoever was the target in that house encountered their killer that night. And that in some way, shape, fashion, or form, whoever killed these people was set off that night. And they either followed Kaylee and Maddie home from the bar and the food truck, or they followed Ethan and Xana home from the frat party, and watched. And then when it was apparent that everybody had gone to bed and all the lights were turned out, that's when they struck. I also have a tendency to believe exactly who would slay 4 people like this passionately, besides a sexual deviant still. Unfortunately, in this day and age, something inside of people just gets triggered. And people can either be triggered at the drop of a hat, or they can be triggered over a certain period of time, and I'll talk about that, and how that could play into who was the target and why they were killed. So let me just get into that. You have Maddie and Kaylee, who went to the bar that night, and by witness accounts, they were drunk. Could someone have, could they have, like, rejected some guy, and said something ugly to him, or and by no means when I put out a scenario or a thought or whatever that may seem uh, like I'm condemning the victims, I am not in any way, shape, fashion, or form condemning the victims. I'm not condemning any of them for going out and drinking. I'm not condemning any of them for being pretty or having the money to buy a new Range Rover or being good looking or anything like that. What I'm trying to do is think more in the mindset of the perpetrator and reasons why they could have done this. Yes. So, and this guy could have been someone they just encountered that night. It was their first time that this guy maybe ever even saw them. Or it could be some guy that was, had a crush on one of the girls or both of the girls or whatever, and they just said the wrong thing or rejected him for the very last time and set him off. That is a possibility. I worked in the bar business for many years, and all sense of self-control completely goes out the door when you're drinking, whether it be just being stupid or whether you're being violent. I've done some pretty violent shit when I was drunk. I beat the crap out of my ex-boyfriend one night when I was drunk. I've torn doors up when I was drunk, fighting with a boyfriend. I was also in that part of that, like a group violence where you do something to one of us in our little clique, in our little group, you got the whole fucking group after you. We chased this guy through the parking lot one night, and I picked up a 2x4 in the parking lot that I just happened to find laying there as we were chasing this dude. One night, I was walking over to speak to my friend Tommy, and this guy was just being an asshole, and he stuck his foot out and tripped me, and I stumbled, and before I knew it, Tommy had that guy down on the ground beating the shit out of him. And needless to say, Tommy ended up in court over that. I was in a situation that happened, well, more than one situation that happened at a club that I worked at, and needless to say, found myself at the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office giving a statement as to what happened. So, I've been in some pretty crazy situations back in my day, but that's just, hey, I've never said I was a saint, and we all have a past. So Don't mess with a badass woman. That's right. Don't mess with my friends. That's just, the mentality that we had and all. Um then you have to look at, okay, in regards to Madison and Kaylee, here's some other things you can look at. Madison worked at this little Mad Greek restaurant. Her and Xana did. And they were servers there. And I don't know if anyone has really caught this, but it caught my attention, definitely. Maddie was the face of their social media. I haven't had a chance to look into this, but apparently she was maybe like a sort of like a spokesmodel for the restaurant, or the face of their website or something like that. I mean, the girl was beautiful. She is model material. So, and that's what you want, is a pretty face, on your brand or your campaign or your photo shoot or web page or whatever. You're not gonna have somebody ugly on there. You want someone who's attractive or whatever. So, that is another thought, is that maybe someone was fixated on Maddie, as just being the beautiful face out there. She was active on her own social media. It could have been a regular patron to the Mad Greek. Maybe someone that came in all the time, that sat in her section, or would come in just on the nights that she worked. It could have been a co-worker that she rejected, or Xana for that matter. It could be a co-worker that, I talked about it in part one, of an incident that I had where my coworker was my stalker. They could track the IP addresses. Looked at that Facebook and thought, well, that is true. That is true. I'm going to talk about the knife, the K-bar knife, to here in just a little bit, and about that. Then, of course, you have Kaylee. I'm not for sure exactly what Kaylee's job was. I just know that her parents said that she worked from home. I don't know exactly what it is her job was, but she had just bought that new Range Rover. She had some kind of a big job lined up, and was supposed to my understanding, be moving to Texas. What all that, you know, was, I don't know. That's not information that's been released yet. But apparently, Kaylee had actually already moved out of the house, and the only reason why she was there that weekend was because she wanted to show Maddie, her best friend since the 6th grade, her new car, her new Range Rover, and spend the weekend and hang out with her and her former roommates. So that's another thing that tells me that this was not necessarily planned. Because if like I said, Kaylee was not necessarily supposed to be there. So that's just another clue that makes me think that this was not pre-planned, that this was a kind of a spur of the moment idea or thought behind these crimes. The one thing about if Maddie and or Kaylee were the target of this attack, you have this perpetrator who comes in, who sneaks in this house and goes upstairs to kill Maddie and or Kaylee. Why not just do that and leave? Why kill Xana and Ethan? Were they just collateral damage? Because they didn't kill the people in the basement. I honestly believe this perpetrator, whoever it was, did not even know those girls were down there. Do you think there is a chance this is a seasoned serial killer? No, I think it's someone that is from there, is or close nearby, and that it's someone, and like I said, I do believe that whomever was the target, that they encountered their killer that night in some way, shape, fashion, or form. Hook up with apps and yeah. I don't think so. I really don't. It has been mentioned and speculated that had Kaylee maybe been seeing somebody else or dating somebody else during her little break from her boyfriend Jack Decor. I doubt it. Of course, parents are always the last to know, but by all accounts, these kids had been together since basically high school, and they'd been together for 6 years. So that tells me they've been together since high school, and her and Maddie had been friends since 6th grade. So I mean, it's possible, but I really don't think that she was involved with anybody else during this little break or whatever. I mean, who did she come home and call that night? Jack. So that tells me her mind wasn't on anybody but him. So I just really don't think that she was, seeing anybody else or whatever. And same goes for Maddie. Her and Jake were apparently, in lovey-dovey together too, and I'm not for sure how long I think they'd been dating like a year. And I, for that matter, I think, to my understanding, Xana and Ethan had been together for a while too. I'm not really sure on that, but so you're looking at people who had been in, young people who had been in who were in long-term relationships. So then you have Xana and Ethan. I believe that the knife belonged to the perpetrator, and I believe that the knife, I can't really explain to you how I come to this conclusion. Maybe it's just because I've grown up in Arkansas and grown up in the South, and I'm used to being around people who hunt and fish and that kind of stuff all the time. And they have always got a knife on them, they just always, for some reason, have a knife on them. I went to high school with boys who had gun racks hanging in the window of their trucks with loaded shotguns, and those vehicles were unlocked. And this was the 80s. But I went to school with a bunch of rednecks that, you know, went deer hunting before and after school and things like that. So yeah, all their trucks were loaded with fully loaded shotguns, but none of us would have ever thought about taking one of them in. Yeah, I grew up in MAGA country. None of us would have ever thought about taking in one of those guns in the school and killing each other. Now, we had some locker bashings, and we had some, you know, off somewhere in the backwoods gatherings for fights and stuff, but never in our lives would we have thought about taking a gun inside the school and shooting it up. Never. That shit didn't come along till the 90s. And a lot of people don't know it because it's not as much talked about as Columbine is. But there was a school shooting in Jonesboro, Arkansas a year prior to Columbine. And an 11-year-old and a 15-year-old robbed his grandpa's gun case and took enough guns and ammo to the school to start World War III and shot up the school after they pulled the fire alarm and killed 7 students, including a teacher. And they were 15 and 11 years old, Mitchell Johnson and Andrew Golden. You have to look them up. Andrew was killed a couple of years ago or so in a car wreck. He had, of course, gotten out of juvie and changed his name and everything. And then Mitchell Johnson, the older kid, he got out of juvie, and him and one of the boys he was in juvie with hooked up. And of course, they went on to end up in, the big prison here in Arkansas. Those were those 2 kids were not sent to regular prison. They were tried as juveniles, and so they went to Alexander Youth Services Center until they were 18. That started. Jeremy spoke. Yeah. Yeah, that's very, you know, the 90s brought on a huge change. And unless you were an adult, which, I was in 1990, I was 20 years old. Um, but I was old enough to see a huge change, that huge changeover from the 80s to the 90s, where we went from party all night and sleep all day to, serious political stuff, and you know a lot, just so much changed in the 90s. So much changed, and the mentality of people changed, and it's been a slow, in my opinion, it's been a slow regression, and a slow, how do I put this, a slow process of what we're seeing today. And it's sad, people want to know what the hell is wrong with people these days, or what the hell's wrong with these kids these days. um and it's it's my kids, it's my age range of the age range of my own children, who are 24 and uh 32. It's their age range, um that are also, messed up, and that the age range of people that we're seeing that are now, killing their own children, and committing these mass shootings, and whatnot, and even kids younger than them. It's like I said, the 90s into the millennium, into the 2000s, is, that era that just so many big changes. And one thing I've also witnessed is how dumbed down the world has become. Since 9/11, everything is recycled trash. Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with you. Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You're starting to creep me out. I mean, it's like you're thinking inside my head. Um, and that's interesting what saying about the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, because it is true. Um, it like let's see, the big thing in the early 70s, when I was born, that's when all the stuff was going down with the Manson family. And then what, the 80s, you had all these, of course, several serial killers come up through, come out through that era and time. But yeah, it yeah, the 90s brought on a really dark vibe, and then in the 2000s is, you think about, that's when um the whole famous for being famous um era comes into play. And you look at like Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie and Kim Kardashian and um, God love her, rest in peace, Casey Johnson, the Johnson and Johnson girl, Tila Tequila. You know, you had this famous for being famous era of people coming out, and you had that late 90s era of blonde bimbo um, out there. You had Pamela Anderson, you had Playboy, you had and God love her, God rest her soul. There is so much more to her than people truly knew, but Anna Nicole Smith, you know, but you had that era of the socialites and then reality TV comes into play and whatnot, and just that era where of the 2000s where everybody starts really getting dumbed down. And yeah, definitely. Yeah, the 90s, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love grunge music. I love Kurt Cobain. I love um Soundgarden and, you know, all those bands from the 90s and stuff, but it brought on the age of where the 80s was big hair and party all night and sleep all day to, you know, I hate myself and I want to die. Um, and singing about, you know, Jeremy Spoken and uh, just singing about very depressing stuff and not, I mean, you know, of course you had your, you know, country music and stuff, which was, she divorced me and took the kids and took the dog in the house and my truck too, but um you know, and I love Marilyn Manson's music. I'm not necessarily crazy about some of the things that he does, but I do feel that Marilyn Manson is a very intriguing person. He is that kind of person that brings a whole new perspective to things. He you know, he's an interesting character, but I, you know, I don't like some of the things he's done personally. Some of his theatrics are a little, you know, beyond my taste. Of course, I grew up, you know, with Alice Cooper and Kiss. That's about as far as it went as far as grotesque or shock rock for me. Marilyn Manson brought a whole new dynamic in. Totally blacklisted all real town. Yes. Yeah, they damn sure did. They damn sure did. And people didn't get the help they needed, and people didn't get couldn't speak out, you know, um like you can now. Um, since the Me Too movement and all that. The Me Too movement has not only been a movement for women who have been who have had to deal with SA in Hollywood and stuff like that. It's also been for men as well. You like 9 Inch Nails? Yeah, I think he's come a long way though since Marilyn Manson and the Spooky Kids. Um, I think he has definitely come a long way since then. But he's still, I mean, I could just sit and listen to his interviews because he is a whole lot more educated than what people probably give him credit for. And he makes you think. Oh, I love Tool too. God, I remember when Tool came out. I remember when 9 Inch Nails came out. I remember when Kurt Cobain came out. Oh, I'm old. I'm old. But okay, we got to get back to our topic now. Uh, on to Xana and Ethan. Could they have been the targets? There are some things coming out that are making it look like it's very possible that they could have been the target. Oh, I know. Yeah, he wrote for that um uh little music thing or whatever in Florida. And there's some things that are coming out about um the fraternity that Ethan was in is Sigma Chi, and he and Xana had been to a Sigma Chi party that night. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering, but it I have trouble with these pronouncing these some of these fraternity names. um, but some things are being looked at regarding Sigma Chi. Um, and could that fraternity somehow have some kind of involvement? Could someone from that fraternity have had some kind of involvement in the deaths of these four students? There, it has come out that there was a 911 call made at 3 Madison Brand is the occult. Any chance this murder was no, no, I don't think so. Um, I just know that they were killed in such a brutal way that, this wasn't just about using a weapon to be quiet, to, commit a silent murder. These kids were butchered. So it's really safe, in my opinion, to not close any doors on anything or any type of scenario at this point, because the longer that time goes on, that the police have no suspects or no idea who did this or why, then, that just opens the doors and windows farther to, open to speculation and open to the possibility of anything and anybody, the only thing I won't go along with is aliens did it, uh, anything else, I'm gonna keep, I'm always going to keep my mind open. That's one thing I've learned about true crime is you got to keep your mind open to any and all possibilities, because when you zero in on a perpetrator or you zero in on a suspect, you miss so many other clues and you don't follow up on so many other leads and stuff. And then that's how the wrong person ends up in prison for a crime they didn't commit. Oh, yeah, they just dissect. I wish they'd just come get me. Like, I mean, if there's really aliens out there, I don't see how anything could be any worse on their planet. So, like, beam me up, Scotty. Come get me, because I'm tired of living in all this violence and hate and horrific shit. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what Jesus is waiting on. It's time, dude. Come on. Because I'm a light worker and it is my sole purpose here on earth to put light into this world. And even I know that there's no saving this place. Yeah, the thing. Yeah. There is no saving this place. So, but could Xana and Ethan have been the target? There was a 911 call made for, and it was it was an alcohol related situation on the band field. And to explain what the band field is, a band, school marching band, need a field to practice on. I was never in the band, but of course, as a pep stepper and all, I always, they had to practice just like we did. So, oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay, you two, here we go. I've got two cats that think my back window is the front door. They have learned to climb up the ladder of my glamper and come in through the window because they see me sitting here and they want in, and it's easier for them to just get my attention here at the window as to, scratch at the door like a dog would do and let me in. Could this 911 call have any bearing on what happened? The police say that these kids were killed. Here you come too, Rosie. The police say that these kids were killed sometime between 3 and 4. So this puts whoever this drunk person was on the band field at the correct time, which is, of course, extremely close to their house. Now, could this person have been the person that ended up killing them? We don't know. Don't really know what the reasoning was for this 911 call to have been made. Don't know. It's either a perv Rambo killer, a rapist who was caught off guard by another person. Wait, yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I have my own thoughts and theories, but I know I have learned from years of following cases and, years of being in true crime that you've got to keep your mind open. You've got to keep your options open. You've got to keep your things open, because when you zero in on somebody, that's how innocent people end up in prison for crimes they didn't commit. And the real killer gets away. Seen it too many times. So, I just want to keep my options open, especially like I said, the longer the time passes, and leads grow cold, and, you've looked into any and everyone, associated with these 4 kids, and till you just, completely run out of options. And then sometimes that person ends up years later, it turns out that person, the perpetrator, was there all along, right under their nose. Rabbit Illuminati while in someone. I don't know. Caught assassination, coordinated attack. Who knows? I just can't. Here's the bottom line. I cannot imagine what any of these kids could have done to piss off somebody so bad that they would want to kill them in such a brutal, horrific way. But as I said, in this day and age, people will lose it over the drop of a hat. And in both scenarios, with both sets of victims, you have Maddie and Kaylee who were together that night, you have Xana and Ethan who were together that night. There was drinking involved. So it's highly possible that this person, was under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And as I said, I've done some shit that I wouldn't, when I was drunk, that I would not ordinarily do if I were sober. I spoke a little bit about that earlier. Yeah, they all seem like nice kids, come from pretty good families. I don't know what this situation is with Xana's mother. I have not looked into that. Some people are kind of speculating that, Xana's mother could somehow be indirectly involved in this. I don't think so. I really don't. Like this was some kind of a mafia hit or some drug dealer she owed money to or something. No, I don't see that in this case. I really don't. Yes, absolutely. And that's why we got to kind of keep our options open, you know, and keep our minds open and not zero in on any one person. Um, and like I said, there is the likelihood that this could be someone that they encountered for the first time that night. This could be somebody that, you know, the weirdo at the bar that, Kaylee and Maddie could have laughed at and rolled their eyes at and be like, ew, gross. No, I'm not going to have a drink with you, or, I mean, just anything. Um, but, what happened at Sigma Chi that night? Who called the police on this person in the band field with this alcohol related incident? And why? Were they out there acting crazy? Was this one person involved? What is the true story behind that incident? We don't really know yet. Um, could Ethan have gotten into it with someone that night at the party? Uh, could um, could could Xana have been the object of some guy's eye or something, and she'd be like, no, I'm here with my boyfriend or whatever, and it be some kind of a jealousy thing on that end. um could someone have been pissed at Ethan for some reason? We just don't know. And the cops, of course, know more than we do. they know who, or they have some pretty good idea. I can tell you it's not going to be too hard to figure out who was killed first, and where how the blood trails lead, and footprints, and blood spatter and blood droplets and stuff. Those kinds of things tell a story. And like underhanded, yeah, no. Are you asking me where my evidence and research is? No, I don't. I don't think there was any kind of covert government involved in any of this. Oh, um, like I said, I'm shy of. Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and add covert government attack in with the aliens doing it. Yeah, that's not. I mean, I love a good conspiracy, and I've actually lived firsthand through one of the biggest conspiracy stories in the world. But yeah, I'm not that conspiracy. Yeah, me either. Me either. And I, like I said, I don't think that whatever the situation is with Xana's mother, that it has anything to do with these attacks either. I really don't. Um, like I said, if this is not the work of a serial killer, of a Ted Bundy type ordeal, because when this all first happened, people were saying, "Oh, I'm getting Ted Bundy vibes," but honestly, I wasn't getting Ted Bundy vibes. I was getting more Meredith Kercher vibes. And if you don't know who Meredith Kercher is the exchange student who was murdered over in Italy that they tried to pin on Amanda Knox and her boyfriend. And that turned out to be a guy that she worked with, that Rudy guy. Um, but the Italian government tried to paint this big picture of sex games gone wrong and blah blah blah, and pin it on the foxy noxy American woman and her hot Italian boyfriend. It's, yeah. But Ted Bundy, unless these kids, ah, oh, you're so wrong. You're so wrong. Yeah, maybe one of them bought Hunter Biden's old laptop at the pawn shop. Yeah, no. Um, yeah, but Ted Bundy did get into a college dorm and kill 4 young women. So that's why people were yeah, someone has actually come out on social media somewhere and defended the 2 roommates. and told the real reason why they called friends over. And I don't remember now what it was they said, and I don't normally like to put things out there that's at not least been verified unless it's just me telling my opinion or speculation or thoughts, and I will always be very clear about that when something is my thoughts or my theory or my suspicion or my whatever. But someone did come out on social media somewhere and tell why the roommates called friends first or whatever. Oh Lord, I'm trying to think of whose channel I could even tell you to go to find that on YouTube. Maybe it'll come to me here in a minute, but uh let's see. I'm trying to think even whose channel I even watched that on. But the whole call to friends was totally innocent. There was no malice in the reasoning why they called a friend over or friends over to come over first. And I want to say it was the friends that actually ended up using the roommate's phone and calling 911. Oh, I know. Okay. I tell you what, there's a creator by the name of Plunder, Plunder. I believe that's where I saw the story about someone coming out and defending why the roommates didn't first call 911. Check that channel if you want to know more about this person, because this was it was an anonymous post. And I understand the reasoning why people put out anonymous posts, because they don't want to let you know who they are, because like I said, you've got this mob mentality that's going to start harassing them and everything. So people who may have some kind of firsthand knowledge or can back up someone's story will come out on social media and say, hey, yeah, no, this is what really happened, but I'm not going to tell you who I am. I tend to kind of believe, though, whoever made this anonymous post, just by what they said and the wording of it all. Like I said, the whole instance was completely innocent, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. But yeah, you can go on that, Rosie. If you knock my phone over, um, you can go over on that creator's YouTube page and watch the little video that she did about the roommates, and just judge for yourself. Making fake accounts, posting. Oh, see, I have been hearing about the Shanquella Robinson case, but I haven't had a chance to look into it. Like I said, crime never stops, and there is just plenty of crime to go around, to discuss and talk about in this community. But I haven't even had a chance to even look into that case. But from what I understand, it's a pretty horrible situation as well. Yeah, yeah, that's what I've just read little tidbits here and there, and I'm seeing that that case is just as horrible as this one. I'm telling you, the world it has gone mad, and people are just, like I said, people get mad over the stupidest stuff. You've got this whole era and generation of political correctness, like people will be are losing their jobs because they use the wrong uh gender type, or for just saying the wrong thing, or you know being on a certain political side. I had friends that and let me stress the word had, as in has been, um friends that people that I'd been friends with for many, many years, as well as people that I had worked with in the true crime community as an advocate. That when this whole, Trump thing went down, and oh my God, you're the most horrible person in the world for voting for Donald Trump. Um, I lost friends over that. Um, as a matter of fact, the woman that I had worked with in on some advocacy stuff, um, on some cases, when she found out that I voted for Donald Trump, she said, "I have nothing more to say to you, Amy. We have nothing in common. We have nothing more in common, and I have nothing else to say to you. You have ruined this country." You, meaning me. My one vote for Donald Trump won his presidency and ruined this country. I mean, I was not only deeply hurt, I was honestly floored by what this lady said to me and how she ended our friendship, how she ended our advocacy. There's YouTube creators out here that I don't always agree with on certain cases, or may not always agree with uh I don't always agree with maybe some of the things that they do or whatever, but at the end of the day, we are both in the same corner. We are both about the victims. We're both about victims' rights. We're both about getting justice for these people. So, I mean, I just, but unfortunately, people have done that to me. It weeded the pervs, creeps, and zombies. Exactly. You've got a point there. What, Rosie? What? You want to talk to my YouTube followers? Huh? Okay. She's shy. Um, yeah, I guess you're right. It, I mean, if you're willing to throw away years of good work and friendship and stuff away over a vote, okay. I guess I didn't need you as a friend to begin with. But it was extremely hurtful. And oh well, you win some, you lose some. You really do. But who did this? It is just, this is going to turn out to be somebody no one would have ever expected, or this is going to turn out to be a complete stranger that, like I said, maybe Maddie and Kaylee pissed off that night at the bar, or even a situation that Ethan could have gotten into an argument with someone at the party, or it, I don't know, his thoughts are just all over the place and just really, really up in the air. And one of the things is, I don't know how many students have not returned to school. And this is something you got to think about and you got to look at. This happened right before Thanksgiving break. Did they have a dog? Yes, Kaylee had a dog. Um, and her boyfriend Jack now has the dog, but the dog was unharmed. Um, don't know where the poor little thing was when all this was going on. Don't know if the poor little thing had to witness his mommy being brutally killed and his auntie and, you know, mommy Kaylee and auntie Maddie. We don't even know if the dog might have had blood on his paws or anything, or could the dog have bitten the perpetrator? We don't know. But I just, this is so scary. And, I live thousands of miles away. Um, but so I can just imagine the fear and amongst these students going to school at this university. And you got to think that some of these kids are not returning to school. And yeah, that's true. So the perpetrator could very well be a student there at the college and has not gone back to school. And that student has, a good excuse for not going back to school. They can just say, I'm just too scared, or my parents won't allow me to return to school. I'm just going to finish out the semester online, or just, take an F for the 0 for the semester, a F or whatever I get, and, start fresh anew after after this is all over, or dies down, or whatever. I mean, so, people have speculated and wondered, did the killer come to the vigil last night? Because oftentimes killers will return to the scene. And when I say return to the scene, they will show up at vigils and or return to the actual scene of the crime. They'll be standing out there watching the police, as a spectator. They'll show up at a memorial or a funeral, or the grave, or, people are strange. Jim Morrison was right. People are strange. But if this guy knows what's good for him, he's hightailed it by now. But I tend to think that like I said, I can't explain it, but I do tend to believe that the killer already had the knife on him that night. Don't ask me how to explain to you what makes me feel that way or think that way. Like I said, I guess it's just from growing up here in the South, and that kind of thing not being anything unusual, especially in the colder, part of the year. Like I said, people are deer hunting and all kinds of stuff, and so it's just really nothing to see, nothing out of the ordinary. But I guarantee you that this person has a collection of knives. I guarantee you that when you find who the perpetrator is, you will find that they own more than just that one knife. And, it's been mentioned that the K-bar knife is used by the U.S. Marine Corps. However, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can go buy a K-bar knife. I went to the actual kbar.com and was looking around on their website. For, $129, I could go buy my own K-bar knife. And, oh, you're in New York City. Yeah, see, I'm way out in a rural area, in a little town in Arkansas. Like, I scream, ain't nobody gonna hear me. My closest neighbor is way across the street, way back up on a hill with about, I don't know, probably 20 acres between us. So if I scream, ain't nobody. I mean, hell, I had to call an ambulance one night to come get me. And they couldn't even find me. They had to keep calling me back to to find exactly where I was at. And I'm like, um, first of all, if you will put the address into Google Maps, it will bring you directly here. I mean, do you ambulance medical people not use Google Maps? But yeah, it took an hour to get a damn ambulance here because they spent 30 minutes of it calling me back. Now, where exactly are you at? What exactly is the address? Blah, 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 blah. Are you kidding me? I'm going to die before you get here. And it wasn't even an actual ambulance from like dispatched from the hospital. It was like a contracted medical service or whatever that came and got me. But you know, I just feel awful. I feel awful for this community, the city of Moscow, the university, the families, the students, of the trauma of going through such a horrific ordeal and having their fellow classmates brutally killed in such a horrific way. It might be different if this was some kind of love triangle or lover's quarrel or something, but at this point in time, nobody really knows, and so everyone's afraid. And these families trying to figure out what could my son or my daughter have possibly done to somebody to warrant this, to warrant being killed to warrant being killed, period, but in such a brutal, horrific way. I like I said, I'm, from the 70s and 80s, so I grew up watching after school specials, which are now called Lifetime movies. And I'm used to crazies and random physical. Oh man, I would love to come to New York. I would love to come see a Broadway play. But as far as living there, no, it's too peoply for me. I love the quiet and the peaceful sound of the leaves rustling and the crickets and birds chirping and mosquitoes biting. It's way too peoply in New York City for me. But and if one of the kids was targeted and that comes out, you know, how they're going to feel about not only, why was my son the target? What did my son or my daughter do to warrant this? And these poor innocent bystanders, who were just collateral damage or whatever, you know, didn't deserve this. And, it's just, I don't, this is so horrific. Just horribly horrific. And I hope they catch whoever did this soon. I do not want to see this go on for a long period of time. I don't want this case to grow cold. I don't want to have you younger people who are YouTube creators who are a lot younger than me still being here 25 years from now wondering who killed the 4 college students in Idaho. There are cases from the early 90s that are still active today, that I am still following and following up on, and cases that are unsolved. And is the right person in prison, or are they innocent? Or cases of, in cases of, that are just unsolved, and still, wondering now today, 25 and 30 years later, who did it? I don't wish that upon anybody. I really don't. It's sad. And so, but I am going to get off here, and I'm going to call it a night. Hazed or sexually assaulted someone to death, suicide. Could see for the. Yeah, that is true. That is true. And I tell you, I was never in a sorority or anything like that in college, and neither was my daughter. But I know that sometimes these things in these sororities can get uh, pretty heavy. Uh, and I Sigma Chi has basically shut their social media page down, and that, of course, that just fuels more speculation um, about stuff. And is somebody from the Sigma Chi fraternity involved, or more than one person, or it's, I don't know. We just have to sit back and just kind of see what happens and how this all unfolds. But I do want to encourage my fellow YouTube creators and podcasters and investigative journalists and things like that, to just be a little more responsible and a little more respectful, and stop and think about the possible damage you could be doing. And if you do drag up some kind of evidence that gives validity to someone possibly could be a person of interest or whatever, turn that all into turn that all into the police. Don't plaster it all over social media, because you could destroy someone's life. But I know people are going to do whatever they want to do. So anyway, well, I want to thank those of you who have come and joined me here in the chat. Magazine, I've enjoyed talking to you. And our little conspiracy theorist that came in, I mean, everyone's free to their own beliefs and own opinions. That's all I got to say. Well, you're certainly welcome. And because that's, like I said, that's what I like to do. I like to, discuss things and, put things out there and just have a good, reasonable conversation. And I have a lot of life experiences that I can apply towards things like this, that that help in that thought process. A lot of human behavior experience and things like that. And like I said, I just, all I want to do is help in some way, shape, fashion, or form, and do it in a manner that helps the victim, catches the perpetrator, and brings justice. I'm not out to destroy anybody's life without absolute certainty. And that's why I call myself an injustice activist, because I've seen so much injustice and so much wrongful conviction and corruption and government corruption, police corruption, and things like that in cases. And I have also, seen so many cases go unsolved, and so many, things that, like I said, still sitting here 25 years later, wondering who killed JonBenet Ramsey. Things like that. It's you don't want to still be sitting here 25 years from now or 30 years from now talking about cold cases and talking about a cold case. I don't want to see this case go cold. But thank you, Magazine, for coming in tonight. Really have enjoyed talking to you. And to everyone else who has just maybe sat and listened and not, commented or whatever, or thank you. Thank you for stopping by. And please, like I said, consider hitting the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. You'll know next time I go live or upload a video. Give me a thumbs up. Help me get into that algorithm. And like I said, it's all crime and no drama here. So everyone have a good night. And please always remember, be the change. Yeah, and OJ is free. Ugh. Oh God, that's another story and subject. But you all please remember, you go out there and you be the change that you wish to see in this world. As Michael Jackson said, it starts with the man in the mirror. Good night, everyone. Peace out.
Hey y'all, this is Ella from the Rudy Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast. If you love all things true crime, then please hit the subscribe button down below and don't forget to hit that notification bell. And please give us a thumbs up because you're all invited back next week to this locality to have a heaping helping of our hospitality. True crime, that is. Set a spell. Take your shoes off. Y'all come back